Sincere thanks to Dr. Krishna Seshadri and the organizers for having invited us to be here on this day. We had a very fantastic debate earlier on vitamin D, and now we got one more debate which is going to be enthusing everybody. Now, without wasting much time, and today's topic, you know that whether ADA guidelines will suit our Indian diabetics or not, that's the only issue. And we have with us two senior consultants with us to debate on yes and no. And we have Dr. E. Ravishankar, endocrinologist and diabetologist, andrologist at Apollo Hospitals, Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad. And he'll be debating with Dr. Bipin Sethi, who needs no introduction. He is a very senior endocrinologist from CARE Hospital of Hyderabad.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, my esteemed colleague who is very senior to me and respected by all of us, Dr. Bipin Sethi, and ladies and gentlemen. I've been asked to speak about further motion that does the ADA guideline work for Indians? I know that if I were to ask you all to vote right now, you would give an overwhelming yes. But just for the sake of debate for the next 9 minutes, I'm going to speak as to why that is the case. We all know about these two people from the ancient Indian mythology, Arjuna and Bhishma. And we all know that they didn't have a choice but to fight the war. And when the battle happened, despite Bhishma being the mighty and utmost respected personality, just because he was not on the right side of the argument, he didn't have a choice but to lose it. Let's look at what the guideline is about. If you look at the meaning of guideline, it's a general rule. I repeat it, it's a general rule, principle or a piece of advice, or you can also see it as any guide or indication of a future course of action. So it is only a guide or indication. Again, I reiterate that. And of course, it can also be seen as a lightly marked line used as a guide. What are the various synonyms that we have learned during our school days about guidelines? The recommendations, suggestions, advices, guiding principles, standards, and measures. So it is essentially a rough guide only. That's what I meant to reiterate. So let's look at the Standards of Medical Care in Diabetes 2014 from the American Diabetes Association. And I would like to read the lines because they're very essential for the rest of the debate. The standards of care are intended to provide clinicians, patients, researchers, payers, and other interested individuals with the components of diabetes care, general treatment goals, and tools to evaluate the quality of care. The standards of care recommendations are not included to preclude clinical judgment and must be applied in the context of excellent clinical care and with adjustments for individual preferences, comorbidities, and other patient factors. And if you look at the recommendations as such, they include screening, diagnostic, and therapeutic actions that are believed to or known to favorably affect health outcomes of patients with diabetes mellitus. Many of these interventions, as you already know, are based on sound, robust clinical evidence, and the panel members are esteemed faculty members, and some of them are from India as well. So what is the requisite of a guideline, and where do ADA guidelines stand at this current juncture? Are they evidence-based? There's a tick for that. Do they look after prevention, screening, diagnosis, and therapeutic interventions? Yes, they do. Are they cost-effective? Of course they are. And last but not the least, do they cater to the needs of special groups as well, like, pregnant women, celiac disease? They do. So they're ticking all the boxes. Let's look at what do we have at this current juncture in the form of Indian guidelines relevant to diabetes mellitus. We do have ICMR 2005 guidelines for the management of type 2 diabetes. We do have NIN guidelines. We do have DIPSI guidelines. And of course, we do have the latest insulin guidelines as well. And what are the various challenges that one would face if we were to think about developing guidelines completely separate from ADA or ISD guidelines? We have a heterogeneous population, as we all know. We have different religions, regions, ethnicity, variable dietary and lifestyles. And of course, we have the big urban, semi-urban and rural divide. Affordability is a major issue in the Indian context. Lack of a robust, uniform, accessible healthcare system remains the key challenge in the Indian scenario. And these challenges are here to remain for the foreseeable future as well. Of course, we do have numerous stakeholders in the form of endocrinologists, physicians, ophthalmologists, cardiologists, nephrologists, neurologists, obstetricians, physicians, and the list goes on. And lack of adequate research pertaining to India in the Indian context is, of course, a major challenge. If you look at the updated IDF Atlas 6th edition, you can look at the 72 million mark, which pertains to the diabetes burden in the Indian subcontinent, and the 382 million mark, which is almost 1/5 of the world's diabetes burden. And we are only next only to China in terms of that burden. Diabetes is, of course, universal. India has a heterogeneous population anyway. If you were to think about formulating separate guidelines for India, different from American diabetes guidelines, this would be the major challenge, and this can never be crossed across. Let's look at the regional disparities in India. There are 29 states and 7 union territories. We do have a huge geolinguistic disparity as well. How can you cater to a guideline that actually caters to the needs of all these 29 states who speak different dialects, different languages, and have different types of food intakes? There's a vast variation in our culture, and what somebody eats here in the morning is not the breakfast for somebody in the Northeast. Does it mean that we're going to have guidelines for each and every state and each and every community within India if we don't accept ADA guidelines? So are we thinking about having Andhra guidelines and Telangana guidelines because we just divided recently? And of course, some Tamil guidelines as well, Kashmiri guidelines, Punjabi guidelines, Kerala guidelines. Where is the limit? Look, it's not the textbook or guideline that really matters. Remember our good old final year MBBS days. It's not whether you read Davidson, CMDT, Kumar and Clark or Harrison's, but what we assimilate from it and how we actually practice in our day-to-day practice that matters. Just like writing your final year examination, what you retain from the textbook. It's not the type of textbook that you really read. If you look at one of the key statements from ADA ESD position statement in 2012, it reads like this: providing care that is respectful of and responsive to individual patient preferences, needs and values, ensuring that patient values guide all clinical decisions. So it's not really in the guideline. Why ADA guidelines suit Indians? They are based on sound evidence, as I already mentioned. There is this flexibility and multiple options that is really necessary, especially in the Indian subcontext. And of course, glycemic targets are based on patient-related factors and not adhered strictly to just a rock-solid guideline. And all treatment options are given appropriate preference in the guideline and are very pragmatic, which is necessary for day-to-day usage. And if you look at the table of contents, it starts from the classification of diabetes, testing of diabetes in the symptomatic patients, to strategies for improving diabetes care. So it is really, really comprehensive. What is common between American diabetic patients and Indian diabetic patients? To begin with, both have diabetes. It's the same diagnostic criteria we still use, whether it's American or Indian. It's the same. Monitoring is the same as well. We still use HbA1c, I believe, and glucose. And fortunately, unlike Europe and India, we use the same units as well. And the common goal of treatment is to prevent complications. It's the same medications, more or less, maybe a year late here, but we do have more or less the same medications. And we are following this. What's wrong with that? We can't continue to follow the same guidelines. And if you look the argument from a slightly different tangent, there is this argument from a very small minority of people, though, that we can't trust guidelines at all. Why is that? Despite repeated calls to prohibit or limit conflicts of interest among authors and sponsors of clinical guidelines, the problem persists. According to this medical investigative journalist, 70 to 90% of panel members don't disclose their interests truly. Too many guidelines just confuse us. We have ADA, IDF, ACE, NICE, Canadian, Indian, what next? We don't need so many guidelines. What all we need is a simple guideline which we can use in our day-to-day practice using some common sense. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong in using the same ADA guidelines in the Indian context. Just focus on individualized and patient-centered care rather than think about one guideline or the other. And of course, through multifaceted implementation strategies that take the collaborative nature of medical work forward into effective clinical care. So, where did I start? Does the ADA guideline work for Indians? Of course, we said it is yes at the beginning, and I'm sure you would tell that it is a double yes if you were to be voted now. I thank everyone.
Thank you. So you put your case there. And before going into the argument with Dr. Bipin Sethi, how many of you would like to vote for following the ADA guidelines? How many of you? You can vote, you can raise your hands. Okay. How many of you would not like to follow the ADA guidelines? Not like to follow. Oh, very minimal. I think you got a great job to do, sir. Anyway, Dr. Ravi has said that he also said that the special groups have been included to look into these things, but I'm not very sure if Indian phenotype has been included. That's one issue. And lack of research, particularly to the Indian diabetic patient, has been very well highlighted by him. And of course, heterogeneity of the Indian population, especially with the diet as well. And then he also explained why ADA guidelines suit Indians. Now let us see what Dr. Bipin Sethi has got.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay. Ravi has done a great job, and actually I need not speak because he said that the guidelines do not suit Indians. Though he spoke in English, I will try to tell you what are the differences. Whenever we are at crossroads, we have difficulties in decision making. And after metformin failure, we have too many choices. And each one has its proponents and detractors, and patients always want to use tablets and they do not want to use insulin. Whenever we choose an agent, we have multiple factors to take into consideration, including the effect of the agent on pathophysiology. You have not put on the timer, so I would not know when to stop. Efficacy of the drug, dosing frequency, whether it is safe, cost, outcome data, blah, 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 blah. But people look at the endorsement by a guideline, among many other of these factors, to see whether an agent has to be chosen or not. For United States, all countries are equal, but some are more equal than the others, and that is United States, and whatever they decide, they impose on the rest of the world. This is the guidelines which he has talked about, which takes into consideration many things, but I will point out some areas here which you might have noticed, that you have multiple choices, and the choice here is of basal insulin usually. If you choose the sulfonylurea arm, you could add insulin, but if you choose insulin, you cannot add sulfonylurea. I don't know what sort of dichotomy is that. Also, other agents are there which have been excluded in this, and this have been very nicely captured in the IDF guidelines, which is alpha glucosidase inhibitors, which might be given as first, second, or third agent. And similarly, there are guidelines by ACE which all suggest that agents like alpha glucosidase inhibitors can be used at all stages of the disease. The major issues and differences that I have with Ravi are the role of postprandial control, that is alpha glucosidase inhibitors, which have been completely overlooked by the ADA guidelines, the positioning, the timing, and the type of insulin that is used for initiation. And also, it states that whatever the HbA1c of the patient, they should receive metformin first. And only if the HbA1c is more than 10 are you permitted to give insulin. Now, we have this problem of this song from a movie which said, Yashomati Maiya se bole Nandlala, Radha kyun gori, main kyun kala. That is Lata Mangeshkar in sweeter tone. So the issue is not just of color of skin, which Krishna was very much bothered about. Not our Krishna is actually quite fair. Indians are different. The way we walk on the left side, the others walk on the right. The way we talk and the way we argue, the way we dress, behave, eat, think and believe. I believe in this. When we were in 1980s, we used to carry the grinder mixers from Tamil Nadu to United States with an adapter of 110 volts so that the grinder can work in United States. The Lee jeans, which I used to wear in 1983, had to be brought from there, and we had special tailors in Hyderabad who would make it into Indian sizes. So we have the role of adapting and tailoring right from those days, and I think that is what is necessary and that is what is the Indian context. Our diets are high in carbohydrate compared to that of the Western diets. You look at this portion and you find that the Western diet is just 39% of carbohydrate, and this is not just in one region. Well, it's true that I come from Telangana, which recently carved out for political reasons, but we are not good at dividing. We should not divide the country into Oriya, Hindi. You look at all these areas and you find that carbohydrate content is universally in the excess of 60%. And in the studies that were done in the UK, the Indians with the same degree of food, which is shown in the yellow color, they have higher glycemic responses to the same food compared to their Caucasian counterparts. And as against what has been shown by Monier, that at the higher HbA1cs you have got greater contribution of postprandial and fasting, and in the lower HbA1c you have got greater contribution of PP. Look at the Indian data. The postprandial contributes almost equally well to all the HbA1cs across the range from 10.2 to 7.1. So we have, if you look at people, postprandial hyperglycemia is very common amongst diabetics. I will ask the audience to raise hands. Which insulin do you use to initiate your patients? Do you use basal insulin? Please raise your hands. How many of you use premixed insulin? So you are not Americans. Then why did you raise your hand for ADA support? They say don't use premixed insulin at all. How many of you use basal bolus? I can see only 2-3 endocrinologists here who raise their hands for that. Okay, fine. Do you titrate the dose of insulin usually after you have, let's say you're using basal bolus or whatever? Do you use fasting alone? Fasting in pre-meals? How many use fasting alone? How many use fasting and pre-meal sugars? How many use fasting and post-meal sugars? But Americans don't do post-meal sugars at all. Why are you doing that? Look at this. They say look at the pre-dinner, the pre-bedtime, and the pre-lunch sugars, and then when you are at all the hours, then you do the postprandial sugars. So why are you doing post-meal sugars? Why did you support him? So we have a case for you. This is final. This is an obese surgeon, because surgeons are not in the audience, we can call them obese, they are actually, whose HbA1c is 9.1, he comes to your clinic after mass health checkup, hypertension has been looked after Dr. whoever, dyslipidemia by somebody else, and now he comes to you. Would you give him lifestyle modification alone? How many will give lifestyle modification alone? Okay, metformin alone? How many will give metformin? Okay, how many of you will give him metformin plus another agent? But Americans say start with metformin. Why do you want to give him 2 agents? So, in the absence of updated local guidelines, one has to choose the best fit for our subjects, which is not necessarily made in the United States of America. Anyway, there is nothing in US, everything is made in China. So if that is the case, we might follow the Chinese guidelines. Dietary practices and response to meals suggest that AGIs need or merit consideration in the therapeutic armamentarium, which the ADA guidelines are pretty silent about. Postprandial control is a better option and can skip the pre-meal algorithm in titration and intensification of insulin. Higher HbA1c values not in the range for insulin administration, but beyond the reach of single agent call for administering more than one drug. And for those who will not accept basal strategies alone, there are rooms for other insulin regimens at all. Now, before you become the Arjuna and start blowing the conch, find out who is the Krishna. Let's not talk about Arjuna and Bhishma. My Krishna is sitting there. He asked me to speak on this and I spoke. So you now listen to both of us. You try to find out whom you want to be your Krishna, because you have to blow your own conches afterwards when you go to your patient. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Thank you very much for also finishing in 8 minutes time, ahead of time. Okay, Dr. Bipin Sethi has really given his views, and he says that some countries are more equal than every country. And the very important thing is that about the IDF guidelines and usage of alpha glucose inhibitor, other drugs which have not been indicated in American Diabetic Association. And also he has also highlighted about the diet, which is very, very common. The high carbohydrate has been very common all over the country, as suggested by the START study, what he has indicated. And also, he also indicated or insisted upon the ADA, where they don't use at all postprandial blood glucose at all. So we have to use both fasting and postprandial, where ADA uses only fasting. And also he brought out a few very, very practical things about insulin, whether they use basal insulin or basal bolus or pre-mixed insulin, which differs what we practice in India and what has been suggested by the ADA guidelines. Now, we have 1 minute rebuttal for both the speakers. I would like to invite first Dr. Ravi Shankar to have a rebuttal about that.
Firstly, I thank Dr. Bipin for arguing on my side. Thank you, sir. Despite he trying his level best to confuse you and crossing the code of election conduct by luring you with some nice lullabies early in the morning, he clearly said that you can't have a specific guideline because every individual patient is different, and that's what I said at the outset of my talk. What I said was, clearly, we can't have a guideline that suits each and every patient in our clinic. Just imagine you trying to follow a guideline for each and every patient of your clinic. It's impossible. There can be only some rough guides which we can use to treat our patients. And we already have enough number of guidelines. Why do you need some other extra guideline? Is it just to put you back to sleep? We don't need that early in the morning. We have enough number of guidelines which guide us. And we can use these guidelines to treat our patients using some common sense as well. That's it. And the Krishna here is neither the ADA guideline nor the Indian guideline if and when it comes into existence. It's the knowledge that we have, and of course the common sense that is the Krishna here. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come here. I have nothing to say.
I think both the speakers had their say too, and now we have about 10 to 12 minutes of time. What I would like to suggest is guidelines are guidelines. They just try to guide you, but never force you to follow it. That's a very, very important thing. And even the guidelines have to be adjusted to your needs of your patients. Now, the floor is for discussion, and before going to discussion, I would like to again take the vote. How many of you will support ADA guidelines to follow now, after hearing Dr. Bipin Sethi? Oh, that changed drastically. Okay, now how many of you will not like to follow ADA guidelines because of Indian? Good. I think there's some change in voting pattern now. Now the floor is open for discussion. Both the speakers are available to discuss it. Yes.
As both of you rightly said, though you are from PGI, that guidelines are not commandments. And we live in a multipolar, though we live in a multipolar world, each and every hospital, even in the West, they have their own antibiotic policy. And in India, we think that we are the capital. Everybody here, they said we are the, and Indians should and could have guidelines. The problem is that Indian healthcare is totally unregulated, and more than diabetes, the corruption is endemic here. And even if you people create guidelines, the impact in the international arena will be negative. So we have to regulate ourselves. Then maybe now, at least now the government is awakening that each and every state is going to have an AMS. So in the future, we'll have speakers from academic medicine, not from the corporate hospitals. So as long as the academic medicine is in the dustbin, all your talks are not, there won't be any impact. So maybe in the future we'll have our own, we can lobby our educated politician and have a robust body that really cares about the people with, what we call type 3 people with diabetics, not with the industry which earns from the diabetes. That is what, even in your own specialty hospital, a specialist is not there to treat diabetes. How can we talk about diabetes care and guidelines?
Okay, taken, well taken. Thank you.
Respected sirs, good morning. I am Dr. Naisra from Guntur. I don't have any question because I am a basic doctor. I request you, sir, only one thing. I did a PG diploma in diabetology from Annamalai. Later, I attended more than 30 conferences like this. I request you only one thing, sir, this association. Kindly produce Indian guidelines that can be used by the basic doctor from PHCs. Because recently I retired as Joint Director, Government of Andhra Pradesh. My junior doctors are not having any books regarding the guidelines. Kindly publish on behalf of the STENDO, Endocrinology Society of India. That will be quite useful to all the people to implement it. That is my humble request to all of you experts, sir.
No, in fact, there are certain guidelines available for Indian patients as well. Not that they are not available, and probably we need to take a national consensus. We'll try to do that. Any other comments or? Okay. Let me put forward my thoughts about this particular. Now, definitely there is some ethnic reality of Asian Indian diabetic, and it really impacts the way we manage type 2 diabetes. There is no doubt about that. And if you look into that, we know that there are about 65 million people having diabetes in India, and another 77 million people have pre-diabetes in India. It's not at all a good news. In fact, actually, the speed at which this pre-diabetes is getting converted to diabetes has been very, very, very fast. It's not, it's not a good news further at all. Now, if you look into that, there are so many differences about Indian diabetic patients. If you look into the prevalence of diabetes amongst rural as well as in urban Indians, if you can see that urban people, as expected, are going to be very, very high. But the problem is that it's not a good news again, because there's more and more migration towards from rural areas towards the urban areas, from small towns, from villages, tribal villages to small towns, and from small cities to the metros. And then similarly, even the Indians migrating towards other countries like North America and European Union and other things. So definitely, even a rural person is exposed to the urban atmosphere, and they're becoming more and more diabetics. And the other important thing about Indians is that the way at the age they are found to be becoming diabetic. That is, the Indians are supposed to get diabetic at least 1 decade earlier than our counterparts in Caucasians or other races. If you look into that, even in this particular study, you can see that within 4 years, you can see that there is how a shift has been done. Actually, you can see that more and more younger people are becoming diabetic in India, even within 4 to 5 years. And the most important thing is that most of our people become diabetic at the age of 40 to 50 as the most productive part of the study, which doesn't happen in other races for us. And apart from that, if you can see that, why is it happening? Is there any genetic basis for all the so-called Indian phenotype that we are talking about? Or there's environmental factors? In fact, it looks like both the factors have been involved into that. For example, if you look into one of the genetic factors, that for example, if you take insulin resistance, PPAR gamma gene polymorphism, we can see that South Indians in Chennai, South Indians in Dallas, and Caucasians in Dallas, they see that the disparity of how they are distributed and represented in the populations. And apart from that, if you look into the beta cell function genomics, there is some study that we can see that these variations have been found maximum in Asians like Chinese, Japanese, and Malays, and Asian Indians. And this, if you look into that, even in Asia, how it differs. If you look into the East Asians, they are more beta cell. And whereas if you take in Asian Indians, the more insulin resistance is more predominant here. So we need to look into that as well. And why, as far as the environmental functions are concerned, all of us know that the dietary drastic change in the food contents of the food and urbanization, industrialization, increased incomes, and changing lifestyles and values and culture have been implicated in this. Now, coming back to the so-called Asian Indian phenotype, how specific and how different are Indians, we can look into that. We are called as Indian phenotype, is also called as the thin fat Indian, because the BMI may be low, but still they are metabolically very active in the sense that they have more abdominal fat, more insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia, higher levels of C-reactive protein, lower levels of adiponectin, and you can see that the characteristic lipid profile, and they are more susceptible for type 2 diabetes as well as coronary artery disease compared to our counterparts. So the Indian phenotype is entirely different from what we see with others. And one of the famous one is the Twilight paradox. We can see here that Yudkin, and as well as Dr. Yudkin and Dr. Yagnik, if we can see here, both have got the same BMI, if you can see that, 22.3 and 22.3. Look at the fat content of each. Dr. Yudkin, he has got about 9.1%, whereas Yagnik with the same BMI has got 21.2% body fat. Both are having the same BMI. This has to be taken into serious consideration for Indian phenotype. This is because we got more intra-abdominal fat compared to subcutaneous fat that they have. And if you can see a newly detected diabetics, if you can see here, the diagnosis happens 10 years earlier, and you can see that insulin resistance is 1.5 to 2 times more than what we see in the Caucasian population. So we have more insulin resistance and earlier age at onset. And look at the newborn babies, how much of insulin resistance and other things that they have. We can see that both the babies born in Pune and as well as in London, both are same otherwise, but if you can see that leptin levels and as well as insulin levels are higher with Indian babies, indicating that at birth itself we have a different phenotype that we have. And that is the reason, apart from that, we have a different waist circumference compared to other people. So it's entirely different, we are different. And look at the way the Indians respond in the gut. The same meal that they take compared to the Caucasians, if you can see here that the area under the curve, that is the glycemic index, so differs that Indian diabetics have got a different type of absorption of carbohydrate from the gut. So they have a higher peaks of blood glucose, and so that PP blood glucose has a major role in our control of diabetes. And Indian gut is again further different because Indian gut needs to handle much more glucose load because the carbohydrate intake is very high than in the Caucasians, leads to greater exposure of carbohydrate on the L cells of the intestine as well as the brush border of the intestine, which makes alpha glucosidases. So we need to think about that. And then therefore, the peaks and excursions of glucose and lipids are more in the Indian population compared to other populations. And drugs working via glucosidase and as well as the DPP4 inhibition, probably they are more efficacious in our Indians compared to our counterparts. So you need to take into consideration all these issues, and then we should think that whether our Indians need lesser doses and lesser combinations, or our genetic pattern is so different they respond to drugs in a different fashion. All those things have to be taken into consideration. I think we need to take a very, very balanced view and we can think about guidelines, but we need to look into differently about the guidelines and also treat our patients slightly differently than what we said. I'm not trying to say don't follow. They're all giving some good knowledge. All the guidelines will give good knowledge. There's no doubt about that. But still, we need to think about our own Indian phenotype, our Indian patients in a different fashion. So thank you for your attention, and I'll also welcome you to the World Congress on Diabetes, which will be held, in fact, sorry about the date, it's in April 9th through 12th, it will be there. You are all welcome. Thank you very much.